Hey guys, I just got off the phone or actually Zoom with Robin Steeman of Moms for Liberty in Tennessee, one of the Tennessee branches. And if you don't know that group, you really should. And we might devote the entire of next week to Moms for Liberty. So this past week, we devoted the entire week to American frontline nurses. And next week, we may devote the entire week to Moms for Liberty. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's what we're going to do. Why would we do this? Well, these are just amazing organizations, head and shoulders, and then some above everything else that I see going around. And I've seen it all, and some of it I've seen very up close. And these are two really great, great, great institutions led by really dedicated people. So in talking with Robin, a couple of things came up that I wanted to commit to film before I forget them. And something that she and I talked about has to do with language. Language. We are living and dying by our careless and ineffective use of language, literally. And George Orwell talked about this decades and decades ago, but it's still true. For example, we have allowed the psychopaths to call the sexual mutilation of children by chemical and surgical means. We've allowed them to call that gender affirming treatment. Now, isn't that lovely? That bullshit should have been shut down the first day that that phrase was used, and they should have been hammered with the reality of what they're doing. And the words that I used are way more accurate and way more descriptive of what they're doing than gender affirming therapy. Now, this kind of well-crafted bullshit has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. There's nothing new. The Nazis were really good at it. In fact, historically, the Holocaust started with the murder of infants, handicapped infants. A lot of people don't know that. And what they did was they told the parents, oh, we've got this, and they put beautiful words on it, this special treatment facility and special program for your severely handicapped newborn. And the parents heard those words and believed them and handed their children over, and all their children were murdered. And that was the beginning of the Holocaust. After they killed the handicapped infants and they killed the handicapped children, then they started killing the handicapped adults, and they started killing, people with any kind of illness. They set up centers. They had 5 medically operated, by the way, by doctors, nurses, and public health officials, funded by the German government. And they had 5 regional centers in the country of Germany, and they worked up a transportation system. They used special buses. They used trains. And to kill, they used the injections, and they used gas. And that's where they worked all that stuff out, murdering the handicapped. And it was presented as a good thing. This is going to strengthen. This is a humanitarian thing. Euthanasia. It's wonderful. You'll love it. So the evil ones, which I don't know how else to describe them, are really good at language. And we better get really good at language too. Because they're using it like a club to beat us over the heads with. And they're succeeding. I talked when I was talking with Robin, she estimates it'll take about 6 to 8 years of relentless work, intelligent work, which they certainly are doing at Moms at Liberty, on Moms for Liberty. 6 to 8 years to clean up the cesspool of psychological garbage that has infiltrated all the school boards of America. And she made a really interesting point. I asked her, how did this happen? She said, well, people with conservative values, and I'm going to talk about that word conservative in a second, are so busy being productive, running businesses, doing their jobs, taking care of their families. They didn't perceive that they had a lot of time or a lot of reason to get involved in local, frankly, petty politics. So it was left up to the leftist psychopaths of the world. They've got all the time in the world. And for them, they don't have values other than whatever the political opinion of the day is. If the political opinion of the day is stand on your head for 5 hours a day, they'll all do it. And whatever they're told is the great thing, that's what they're going to be doing. And they're going to devote their lives to it. So those people have taken over all the school boards in America. Most of the local governments, even in the supposedly conservative states, it's a real problem. So very interesting to get her perspective. So can we win? Yes. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely no. But let's talk about some terms, right? Christian conservative values. Okay. And well, actually, let's talk about, I want to talk about something else first. Marxism, right? A lot of people are throwing the label of Marxism on what's going on. And I don't necessarily dispute that, but I wonder about its effectiveness. Okay. In fact, the reality is it's not Marxism. It's some kind of gangster thuggery that was worked out by the Soviets and worked on by the Chinese and proved by, worked on by other, true believers, a technology for subverting humanity. I mean, that's their goal. They have a simple goal. They want to rule, and by they, the people at the top. And their idea of a good setup is they're the only human beings that count, and everybody else is sub-cattle, right? No humanity, no human rights, certainly, no human dignity, subhuman. This is what, again, going back to, the Nazis, this is how they envisioned the world. There were the true people, and then everybody else was a subhuman, and you could do anything you wanted to them. And that's how the communist leadership operated in the Soviet Union. That's how the communist leadership operated in China and in other countries. Historically, yeah, it is Marxist. Okay, but nobody can relate to that. Like nobody's looking around and seeing, the hammer and the sickle everywhere. It's an unfortunate term. It's got a level of accuracy, but I don't think it's the best term. I don't have a better term at the moment, other than you have to include the fact that these people are gangsters. How about anti-human authoritarian gangsters? How about that? AHAG. AHAGs. How about that? We're fighting the AHAGs. It's a brand new name. It doesn't have any kind of baggage. And again, to call these people Marxists it's technically true, but again, not terribly helpful. Another term, Christian. Okay. When things are going well, Christianity is an extremely pro-human and not pro-ego, pro-humanity set of beliefs and doctrines, right? I mean, New Testament is pretty clear. You feed the poor, you take care of the ill, you look out for children, you call out corrupt people, pretty clear. And then, of course, the great golden rule, which is what healthy Christian churches espouse. Those are all great things. The reality is not everybody that flies the Christian flag is a Christian. And it's a problem. It's a problem. There are a lot of Christian people that are AHAGs. They are, whatever I said. I have to play back the tape. Authoritarian gangsters, anti-human authoritarian gangsters. Some of the TV guys, right? And then there are a lot of people that have abused Christianity in the most heinous of ways. And it's traumatized a lot of people. There are a lot of people walking around that have been traumatized by so-called Christians. And so they're not going to respond to this idea of Christian values. So we were talking about that, maybe the word godly might be better. And then I pointed out that, I know a lot of Muslim people, and there's a lot of different flavors of Islam, right? There's the lunatic fringe, and then there's the normal people. And those people are as life-affirming, human-affirming, honest people you're going to meet anywhere. In fact, they put a lot of, give a lot of good Americans a run for their money. So if we say Christian, I get it. When Christianity is operating at its ideal or close to its ideal level, it's fantastic. But it's not always. And there's a lot of people, like hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people walking around that did not have a good experience with people who called themselves Christians. I mean, it's a fact of life. Okay? And then when you say Christian, now are you eliminating the Muslims? There's a couple of billion Muslims. They're not down for the New World Order agenda. They're not down for the AHAG agenda, the anti-humanitarian, the anti-human authoritarian gangsters. They're not down for it at all. And they fight, So if you say Christian, this is a Christian movement, what about the Muslims? There's a lot of them. They're good guys. A lot of them are really good guys, like really good guys. And then there's Buddhists, in Japan and China. There's Hindus, in India. Can they not be part of the resistance because they're not Christian? Yes, this is where I'm getting a little concerned, So we got the Christian thing we got to worry about. The language. Is it the Christians fighting the Marxists? Well, that's not going to resonate with a lot of people because they can't relate to what a Marxist is unless they know the intricacies of history. And they may not be Christian themselves. They may be perfectly decent people. They're just not Christians. That's possible, I think even Christ recognized that, right? The Good Samaritan. Guy wasn't a Christian. He was a guy that was despised. He was from a group of people that were despised. And he said, well, look what this guy did. He's with us. Okay. And he's not flying under our flag, but this is the kind of guy we're trying to become. Right? The other problem, conservative. Unfortunately, again, as with Christianity, a lot of criminals have carried out their activities under the conservative banner. The Bush family, for example. I know a lot of people are, in love with Ronald Reagan and everything. Said some things that were right. He was engaged in a lot of criminal behavior. Nixon deserved it, right? And all these so-called great conservative people. And then you look at the conservative congressmen, really? Some of them. I mean, some of them are great, really great. The ones that are true. But a lot of people have done a lot of bad things under the conservative flag. So if you go out and say we're a conservative Christian movement, you'll get who you get, but you're gonna lose a lot. We're a Christian conservative movement fighting the Marxists. That's good. That's a tent. It's not as big a tent as this needs to be. That's my opinion about this. So I think what we really should say is we're fighting the anti-human authoritarian gangsters who sometimes call themselves Marxists, sometimes call themselves Nazis, sometimes call themselves the Democratic Party, right? That's who we're fighting. Yeah, they're definitely using the playbook of the Marxist-Leninists. Absolutely. That's true. Can't deny that. And it's good to talk about that, because people are curious. It's like, where did all this come from? You can tell them, well, they're borrowing from the Marxist-Leninist handbook. But again, what these people really are anti-human people that want to run everything and want to degrade and debase humanity so that they can take anything they want, steal anything they want, abuse people in any way they want without any kind of reaction. They can just do whatever they want. They're gangsters. They're the definition of gangsters. I think everybody can understand a gangster. Everybody can understand anti-human. Everybody can understand authoritarian. Not everybody can understand Marxist-Leninist, And in terms of who are we? Who are we, the people who are fighting? There are some Christian people fighting. There are some conservative people fighting. But if we're limited to people that define themselves strictly as Christians or strictly as conservatives, we don't have the army that we could have. So what we call ourselves, the resistance, I don't know, we're the resistance to the anti-human authoritarian gangsters. Where do you stand? I'm with the resistance. What are you resisting? I'm resisting the anti-human authoritarian gangsters. Well, who are they? Well, they're the guys that are letting the borders wide open, overwhelming the social services system, which hurts the poor, overwhelming the informal, low-wage economy, destroying the poor in America. There's nothing good about that. Well, who else are you against? Well, we're against the people who are telling us that it's okay to convince a 12-year-old, I mean, I can't even say what they're doing to convince a 12-year-old girl to mutilate herself permanently based on their ideology. We're against that. People go, wow, we're against, and this hasn't really been, well, it's not under the umbrella of Moms for Liberty, but if we have this broader umbrella, we're against the pharmaceutical companies dictating what is health and what is not health, and what people must take and what people may not take, and what science is allowed to be heard and what science and medicine is censored. We're against that. So we could list like 10 things that we're against. If you're a member of the resistance and you're resisting the anti-human authoritarian gangsters, this is our platform. We could probably boil it down to 10 points that every sane, healthy, decent human being on earth could agree with. Then we can bring in the people that they don't feel like calling themselves Christians for whatever reason. Or maybe they're born Muslim and they like it. If you've ever been to a sane Muslim country, like Morocco or Turkey, people are cool as shit. They're friendly, they're warm, they're helpful. They love their families. They don't put up with all this crap that we put up with. I mean, we could learn a lot from them, right? So now they could be part of, embraced, brought into this thing. Buddhists, Hindus, whatever kind of, anybody that acknowledges that human beings are a divine, we're divine creation, right? We're not perfect. The earth, the universe doesn't revolve around us as individuals, but every human being is a sacred, divine, holy, God created, whatever. The language kind of fails us, unfortunately, but every human being is important. So we don't open our borders, creating chaos for the people that cross the border and creating chaos for the people who are now being deprived of their employment and those who need help, and then overwhelming the local governments. Okay, that's not humane, right? It's also not humane to it's actually the epitome of evil to when a child comes to you for counseling, to push some psychotic agenda on them because it somehow makes you feel better about yourself, right? And by the way, we'll get into this when we do our calls with Rob and Steven. There's a huge infrastructure. Like, you may only be getting little. I mean, even me, I've studied this stuff. I watch all the videos and everything. Few of us have a broad, comprehensive view of how deep this thing has gone. I mean, every public school has elements of it. Some are completely taken over. Some are 50-50. Some have a active minority. But you'd be hard pressed to find a single public school anywhere in this country, no matter how nominally conservative, that has not either been taken over or completely infiltrated by these anti-human authoritarian gangsters. And they're the foot soldiers of the anti-human authoritarian gangsters. They're the useful idiots. They're the lost souls, and someone gave them a ideological rifle and put them in a uniform and pointed them in the right direction. And I think somebody is mowing the lawn next door, and I'm going to have to stop. But you get it. This language thing is super important. And we live and die by our language. And believe me, the other side knows it, which is why they make up all kinds of great, beautiful sounding terms. But I'm going to consider that we are fighting the AHAGs. It's a good acronym, right? AHAGs. It's easy to remember. And What are we? We're the resistance. What are you resisting? We all agree these 10 things are bad. You might be Christian. You might be Jewish. You might be Muslim. You might be Buddhist. You might even be an atheist. Kind of a weird position to take because, like it or not, everybody's got a religion. And for some people, atheism becomes their religion. Um, Marxism becomes other people's religion. Transism becomes other people's. You're going to have a religion whether you like it or not. So you better think through the religion that you want to be part of. But in any event, that opens the field to many, many, many billions of people that don't fall under the self-described category of conservative Christian. I think this lawnmower is drowning me out. I can barely hear myself. I don't know how good this microphone is, but I'm going to say goodbye. But you get what I'm saying. Stay tuned.
Brass Check TV, free to you, not free to us. We've got a server bill, we've got an email software bill, we've got a tech helper bill, and that happens every month. So to everybody that is supporting us financially, that's paying for their subscription in one way or another, we really appreciate it. If you're not, consider doing so. Everybody's got money for the newspaper and the cable bill and all that. Do you have money for media that's actually serving you? That's really the issue here. And when you help us, it allows us to get this information out to the world. So thanks to all our supporters, and if you're not a supporter already, please consider becoming one.